Over many decades, the automotive industry has produced some iconic vehicles that are legends to this day. Many of these classic cars have grown in price over time and have given many enthusiasts and collectors loads of enjoyment. However, throughout history, there have been some cars that have built themselves a well-known reputation of being incredibly deadly to drive. And with the lack of safety control when these cars were produced, it makes them a whole lot more dangerous. And with that said, here are the 7 most deadly cars ever made. Audi 5000. Even though nowadays Audi is known for its luxury styles and comfort, the Audi 5000 had a reputation of crashing itself. From 1983 to 1987, this vehicle was responsible for hundreds of accidents and 6 deaths. During many of these crashes, the owners of the car reported the vehicles would accelerate on their own and not allow the driver to stop the car, which would cause some incredibly dangerous situations. However, Audi 5000 owners would eventually find out the vehicle had issues with the idle stabilizer system, which most likely played a role in many of these deadly accidents. And after reports of these crashes, Audi paid to have all new models equipped with shift safety locks, which would prevent the car from entering gear on its own. And as of today, shift locks are mandatory on all new vehicles. Chevrolet Corvair. From 1960 to 1963, the first generation of the Chevrolet Corvair was sold to the public. The car brought many mixed opinions to buyers because of the European-looking style, and those who didn't buy it got lucky because it became one of the most deadly cars ever produced. With the car's long rear end, Chevy decided to mount the engine in the back of the vehicle, which was a bad decision. This would cause dangerous oversteering and handling issues, especially while driving at high speeds. Chevrolet eventually publicized the car needed a drastic tire pressure difference between the front and rear wheels to prevent oversteering, and they were basically admitting the car would put you in danger when driving it hard. On top of all these flaws, the car's engine was prone to overheating and seizing. And this car quickly grew a very bad reputation in the automotive industry. Yugo GV. The Yugo GV was advertised as a very reliable and cheap car pretty much anyone could afford, but the small price tag of this vehicle would match the quality. Cheap interior pieces, a poor drivetrain, and a poorly constructed body made this car very unenjoyable. Even though advertising made it sound like this car would last you forever without any problems, the GV's engine would get you into some trouble. Many owners reported the car had timing belt issues, and because of this, Yugo would make you change the belt every 40,000 miles. And this job will cost you a lot of time and money. The GV was also incredibly slow, and the cheap design of the car was not able to protect the drivers very well in deadly crash situations. In 1989, a woman was driving her Yugo across a bridge and was hit with a 50-mile-per-hour gust of wind that blew her right off the bridge into the water. And with a rate of 3.6 deaths per 10,000 cars made, the Yugo became known for being incredibly dangerous. Chevrolet Cobalt. A relatively new and common car to many is the Chevrolet Cobalt. While many people think this is a reliable daily driver, the car has some very dangerous flaws that could put you in deadly situations. First, the issue of fuel leakage is a very common thing to happen to these cars, and it could lead to a serious problem. Another flaw would be the faulty ignitions these cars were produced with. Over the years of the Cobalt's production, Ford has recalled several parts from all models such as the trim padding, power steering components, and fuel system components. But the biggest issue with these cars would be their faulty switches. There were certain switches in the electrical components that would malfunction and end up cutting the engine's power, leaving the driver in a deadly situation. After GM denied allegations of faulty switches in their Cobalts for 5 years, they eventually admitted and were forced to recall over 700,000 models. Pontiac Fiero. Although the sporty look of the Fiero made it one of the coolest Pontiacs ever built, it holds a bad reputation of breaking and causing deadly accidents. Even though the car looked like it was focused on performance, you would risk the car blowing up every time you drive it hard. That is because the car was notorious for malfunction connecting rods, and whenever the car was extremely low on oil or driven very hard, these rods had a high chance of breaking. Another major problem this car had was the hot engine and oil leaks. These cars were known for their engines to run hot and leak oil, which would put you in a deadly situation because this caused many fires to start in the engine bay. And after almost a dozen injuries and hundreds of complaints, this car gained itself a deadly reputation of setting on fire. Ford Pinto. With many people knowing about this car specifically because of its dangerous features, it makes the Ford Pinto one of the most deadly cars of all time. Some drivers claim the vehicle has a habit of jumping into gear on its own, and many other owners reported having problems with the suspension and drum brakes, which can be quite a dangerous issue, but cannot compare to its most deadly flaw, which would be the gas tank. Ford mounted the gas tank so far back in the Pinto that almost any rear-end collision would cause severe damage to the tank, and in many cases when the Pinto would get rear-ended, the fast impact of the crash would cause the gas tank to explode. After a shocking number of these incidents occurred, a recall was petitioned by the Center of Automotive Safety, and Ford voluntarily agreed. DeLorean DMC-12. From 1981 to 1983, an ex-GM executive named John DeLorean started his own company and created a legendary car called the DMC-12. With a very unique look, wing doors, and a famous movie feature, this car looked a lot more promising than it actually was. The car only had 130 horsepower, which was very slow at the time, and many drivers will say the car has very poor handling. You could also expect to get uneven tire tread wear because of the dangerous alignment issues. However, DeLorean had inexperienced workers developing the car, which was most likely why there were so many issues. And these problems didn't stop at the drivetrain. With a completely stainless steel body and a fiberglass frame, the DeLorean would not be able to survive many high-impact collisions. But if you did get into an accident in this car, the very popular wing doors would lock shut and trap you inside the vehicle with no other way out. And this is why the DMC-12 is known to be an incredibly dangerous car. Those were the 7 most deadly cars ever made. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more of the best automotive content like this.